All right, so here's my reflection on March 13th, 2025 reading of Deuteronomy, chapter 3, verse 21 through 29, chapter 4, and chapter 5. We get into chapter 6 tomorrow. So we've got again Moses continuing to summarize the following of God. We've got Moses forbidden to enter the land. Twice he ends up saying that the Lord was angry with me because of you. And he talks about pleading with God to be able to enter the promised land and but is unable. A couple of different times we see that you who were faithful to the Lord your God are still alive today. So being faithful to God. This was another one that stuck out to me. Obey them completely, meaning the decrees and regulations that the Lord gives. Obey them completely, and you will display your wisdom and intelligence among the nations. So, again, this is my thought process: is what God tells us to do isn't necessarily for us to do to be in His good graces. It's for us to live in a way of wisdom and goodness. He's our creator. It's our instructions for life. And if we follow his commands, our wisdom's going to shine through. It's not for us. We don't follow his commands so we can do these things and earn our favor with God. No, especially now with Jesus, we don't have to earn our favor. We do these things so that our life is rich and full and displays that to God and to the other people for God, for the glory of God. That's why we do it. We don't do it for our salvation. That's already done. We can't earn anything from it. What we can earn is other people's adoration for how we're living and hopefully lead them to God. The other part, another one here, warning against idolatry, worshiping false god, fake gods. It's garbage, right? And we as humans, myself included, have a penchant for worshiping the things created, not the creator. God created us and we should worship him, and he wants us to worship him and follow him and seek him and have a relationship with him. That's him. We're made to worship him. And if we're worshiping something other than him, and again, we have a penchant for that, worshiping the idol of money, the idol of fame, the worship the idol of sports sometimes, or cars, our own glory, those things. We worship those things and we can be led into that. So those are things we have to watch out for and worship only God. And he's saying here that there may be we know that with Israelites, that the Israelites were drawn away from him and they did worship false gods, carved images, those kind of things as well. And it leads them to destruction. But God is faithful, and he will, if we search him with all of our heart and soul, we will find him. And I say we. The word here is actual words. And if you search him with all your heart and soul, you will find him. And God is faithful to receive them. He's merciful. He's full of mercy. His mercy allows us to come to him. It's his mercy and grace. We don't deserve it. Again, we have a penchant for this. We have a penchant for so many things. Look at the foolish things the Israelites did, and yet they had God to look right at. They had so many awesome displays of power that God did, and yet they did fall. Remember this and keep it firmly in mind. The Lord is God both in heaven and on earth, and there is no other. That's what we have to remember. Then we have the cities of refuge, and we have the introduction of the law. Then we have the 10 Commandments, and I summarize the 10 Commandments into the two that Jesus said were the greatest. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and that's, honor. You must not have any other gods before me. Must not misuse the name of God, Lord your God, in vain. You must observe the Sabbath. What was the other one? Don't bow down to false images. Anyway, the first four are love your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Honor your mother and father. Love your neighbor. That means it fits that. You must not murder. love your neighbor. You must not commit adultery, love your neighbor. You must not steal, love your neighbor. You must not testify falsely against your neighbor, love your neighbor. And you must not covet your neighbor's wife, house, land, servant, donkey, ox, anything that belongs to your neighbor. Love your neighbor. Um, the other thing about the first one, honor your father and mother as the Lord your God commanded you. Then you will give a long, full life in the land. Again, it's a promise that goes with that. It's pretty cool. Um, then it says, we get into the people. He's explaining the time where the people heard from God, and they said they worshipped God in a manner that they totally and truly honored God by saying, "Hey, don't do that to us again. Don't speak to us again. We're gonna, you Moses, please be that person that speaks to us, speaks to God, and hears from God. We will listen to you and obey you." We didn't, they didn't, but they're at least acknowledging that at that point. And he said, "Oh, oh, that they would always have hearts like this, that they might fear me and obey all my commands. If they did, they and their descendants would prosper forever." And this is when we hear fear the Lord, or work out your salvation with fear and trembling. This is the kind of fear that we should rightfully have right here. This is an example of that kind of fear. Not afraid for our lives, but fearing and recognizing the awesome power that God is, and realizing that it's holy and that we are not. And again, we obey the commands and we will live long and prosperous lives. And that's what the promise is. And that was the general gist of my reading in a nutshell. Pretty quick, 7 minutes, still pretty long, but there we go.